Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Zide Women's Podcast. I'm Maitri, your host, and my goal with this podcast is to make women's wellness accessible and easy to implement. Now, our guest for today is someone who's super awesome. She is a UAE licensed content creator, and she's just 19, and she's someone who she started creating content out of pure curiosity, and she's currently experiencing the highs and lows that comes with creating content online. She is someone who loves to experiment, learn on a daily basis, and find new ways of creating content that is authentic and actually connects with people rather than following trends and creating just generic mainstream stuff. And something I had to mention is I love her bio because it says my niche is whatever I love. So I am honestly so blessed to have her here. Welcome to the podcast, Hershil. It's such an honor for me to have you here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's truly really inspiring what you're doing, and I'm so glad to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, I'd like to start with the fact that we all know that being a creator is more than a 9 to 5, right?
Mhm,
There's no fixed schedules, there's no fixed timelines, there's always
mhm,
content to shoot, work to be done, places to be,
mhm.
and it's just never ending to say the least. So, I want to know, how does your daily schedule look like?
Honestly, no 2 days look the same for me, and I think that's one of the most blessing parts and one of my most favorite parts of being a creator. There are some days wherein I'm attending shoots or I'm doing events or I'm working on a collaboration, and then there are other days wherein I'm only scripting, filming, and editing videos. And there are days wherein I'm just simply resting or watching my favorite show or just spending time with people. But I think the one thing that has remained constant throughout would be consistency, because ever since I started posting daily, I've noticed more opportunities coming into my life. They're starting to more naturally flow into my life, and I think consistency has really made a huge difference for me.
Wow, I really like how you said that no 2 days look the same, but that's the blessing.
Hmm.
I really like that
Hmm.
because in a world where most of us chase a stable 9 to 5,
Hmm.
you are okay with having unpredictable days and unpredictable weeks. And it takes
Hmm.
a lot of mental strength, to be okay with that, because you
Hmm.
don't know if tomorrow is going to look like today. One day you're shooting, the next day you're scripting.
Hmm.
So it really speaks a lot to me about your mental health. And I also love how you said consistency because you could not have said that enough. It's so important where, especially when you're creating online, the algorithm really favors consistency. I completely agree. When you put yourself out there every single day, no matter how tired you are going to get something or the other in return. Views, a community, likes, shares, visibility, engagement. You are going to be rewarded. So that's really something I like. I cannot agree more.
Hmm.
And also, I remember just as we were talking about this podcast, you told me that you started posting content at around like 12th grade. And
Hmm.
your content posting style was different back then than it's now. So,
Hmm.
how was your schedule back then when you were trying to manage like 12th grade along with content
Hmm.
versus how is it now that you're in university?
So back then I was completely new to the whole content creation universe, and so I did not know anything like at all. And I used to just post like once in a week, maybe when I get an idea or like a spark of interest, like a month later I would post. So it wasn't really consistent, and it didn't really have a theme to it. It was just whatever came into my mind or struck me as an idea or an inspiration, I would just create it and put it out there. And I think a lot of my time really went to school and board exams, because that was number one priority. So content didn't really get like a top five on the priority. It was even lower than that. And so I think I wasn't really consistent, or I didn't really have this thing wherein I was like, I want to be a content creator. Back then, I just wanted to do something in marketing. That's it. That's like all I knew. So my days were really like messy and majorly focused on studying rather than creating content.
Wow. Wow. And we can see how far you've come
Yeah.
from, not having a fixed theme to being super consistent and posting, having brand shoots. It's so beautiful to see. And this is something I am also curious about because they say, right, that when you have a persona or you have a
Mhm,
fixed theme of what you're going to post,
mhm,
your content reaches more people,
mhm.
right? So you have a fixed niche. Of course, it doesn't have to be fixed in like a very strict sense,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
even in a broad sense, I'm a wellness creator, I'm a fitness
yeah.
creator. So if
Mhm,
you, it's not that I'm waking up one day and I'm talking about spirituality and the next day I'm talking about like going out and like drinking. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with showing both of them separately.
yeah.
But when you have a niche, I think it really attracts a community. So I'm so glad you highlighted that. And also, now I would like to move on to our second question,
Mhm,
which is when people, you're also in marketing, right? And I think that speaks a lot about your creativity. So when people are in a career that's as creative as yours, I'm sure that ideas tend to pop up at random times, especially at 3 a.m. Maybe we all
yeah,
have those 3 a.m. ideas, especially
yeah,
you, I guess.
yeah.
So, and this mostly happens when you're already doing something else. And
Mhm,
I personally notice that when you're doing something and you have a new idea, this new idea tends to like hijack your mind. It's screaming for your attention. And then it becomes really hard to execute the task that you already have in hand because this
mhm,
starts looking boring. So, do
mhm.
you also face this? And if so, how do you deal with it and actually execute your tasks before coming to the idea?
Mhm. So I'm really glad that you asked this question because this happens to me all the time, especially when I'm about to fall asleep and then a random idea strikes me, or when I'm eating, it just strikes me. But how I deal with it is my brain gives me like 5-second flashes of like an image or like a sentence or a concept, and I have to like note it down or like store it somewhere so that I remember it. For me, I prefer just jotting down my idea, so I do it usually on like my notes app. But if it's like a longer idea, I do like a voice memo. So I just like to write it down because if it's written down, it's not disappearing into my mind, so I can focus on the task at hand, but I can also later on, improve the idea or work on that idea as well. So I think for me, it's a simple solution of just writing stuff down or just taking a note of it so that I can work on it later. I have been trying to find other ways to do this, but I haven't really been successful as of yet. So yeah.
I love that. I really love that. I think it's so true. When you can note it down, you just physically get it out of your system. Or
Mhm,
even a voice note, because like you said, some ideas are longer than the other, and like
mhm,
a simple sentence won't do it, or a simple keyword won't do it. So I love how you said that because it's so true. You you be especially when you're in a career that requires creativity, your
mhm,
brain tends to be more activated and you do get ideas all the time. So just having the discipline of noting it down or sending a voice note to yourself and revisiting it later is so good, but so few of us do it, and I personally struggle with it as well. But especially when I'm doing boring tasks, my brain comes up with, I want to start a YouTube channel. And then I'm like, you know what, I should work on that. But you have work to do right now. And it takes a lot of discipline. Like I personally still struggle with it. And even if I write it down, I still find a part of my attention to be directed towards that. But it takes a lot of discipline to do this. And I really like how you mentioned this. I think it's hands down the best way to deal with new ideas.
yeah.
And I think there was Alex Hormozy, he's a businessman, and he mentions that he deals with this as well. It is very common amongst business people, creators, when you're in a creative field, right?
Mhm,
So he comes up with ideas. What he does is apparently he takes a Google Doc or like a online anywhere, he opens up a sheet and he just notes all of his ideas down. He just writes them down and he has a specific slot reserved for when he's going to look at them again. So not only has he gotten it out of his system,
mhm,
he also has like a specific time period as to I'm going to go revisit this later, because sometimes when you have an idea written down, you're also scared of, will I actually remember to check that idea again? That's
mhm,
something yeah, that's something I deal with. So when you give yourself that mental, let's say like a timeline that, okay, tomorrow 9 a.m., I'm going to look into this idea.
mhm,
Then that also creates somewhat of like stability in your head to
mhm,
get the task at hand done. So I
mhm,
really like how you mentioned that. And I also want to ask you, this is something that I'm taking a little bit of a tangent here. So, it's always the new ideas, those are the unplanned Zen mode kind of ideas
mhm,
that leave us having our best work, our best book, our best piece of content. But in the moment, when you're creating it, I find it personally very hard to sit with it and start working on it. Although, the idea itself is super exciting, I procrastinate starting it because I want it to be perfect. So chasing perfectionism is something I'm sure a lot of us struggle with. How do you deal with this when you have a new idea? You write it down, but how do you get yourself to actually get started rather than waiting for the perfect moment for the stars to align so you start?
So I saw this reel the other day on Instagram, which was basically they basically said that doing thinking about the thing is not doing the thing, and
True.
scrolling looking for ideas to do the thing is not doing the thing, right? You
True.
actually have to sit
True.
there and start. So I think Leela Hormozi, which is Alex's wife, she has
Mm-hmm.
this thing wherein if you have 5 minutes and if you have a small task at hand, just start. So I kind of put myself into the creator mindset, which is like, it's like my second personality. My second personality. And so, like, when I'm her, that means I have to focus and I have to kind of lock in, right? So, it's like a dual personality thing. Um, so I tend to just shift into her, and I just have to start because I know that if I don't sit down at my desk and if I don't do it, I'm going to end up scrolling. And
Yeah.
honestly, doom scrolling is one of the worst things that you could do to waste your time, because you're watching
Yes.
other people live their life and you're not doing it for yourself, and it's just one
Yes.
decision away. So you have to take that decision, and honestly, it's just discipline, right? It requires commitment and discipline, and if you have to build that over time, it's not something that will come to you overnight, so you have to build
Yes.
that.
I love that. I firstly love how you mentioned Layla. She's such an inspiration. I'm so glad you watch her as well. And I really like how it was so actionable what you said, because we think that to get started on an idea, I need to have 2 hours. I need to have 3 hours. I need to have a whole day. Just 5 minutes is all we need to get started. Right? It's so true.
Hmm.
And it's always about starting messy. It's
Yeah.
always about writing that first ugly paragraph that you don't like. It's
Yeah.
about creating that first piece of content that you cringe out a little later. And it's about doing the things that are imperfect. And you learn only through reps. For that, you've got to get started. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And I really, really am so thankful you spoke about doom scrolling, because, like you mentioned, we're so, Gen Z these days is so content watching other people live their lives
Hmm.
without actually realizing that we're not building our own.
Yeah.
That is so true, right? And so many of us we take on Instagram and we think it's just gonna be 10 minutes. I'm gonna have a timer, and then you see it's been 3 hours. You
Hmm.
don't even realize that you've just scrolled through other people living their life. But they are there because they're actually logged in. They're
Yeah.
focusing on their life, they're building their life, they're posting every day.
Hmm.
And you are watching them live and you're happy watching them live. And you get that dopamine hit, but you're not actually building something for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you have those crashes in the night thinking, oh my gosh, I wasted my day. But it's so important to not doom scroll and to
Hmm.
actually go and build something for yourself. And
Yeah.
I really like how you highlighted all of that in one sentence. So that's super important. And now I want to ask you something I'm actually curious about. What would you say is the single best and single worst part about being a female content creator on
um
Instagram?
so for the best one, I think it would be community and opportunities. I've met some really incredible people and I've had amazing opportunities, things I wouldn't have experienced if I hadn't started posting. So definitely that's my best one. As for the worst, As for the worst one or the hardest part, I think it would be comparison, because there was a point in time when I felt like I had to be happy all the time on social media. So everything had to look picture perfect, picturesque, and it didn't reflect how I felt at that time. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and not really recognizing who I was looking back at. And I think that's the moment I realized that I was performing for the internet. I was acting to be happy. I wasn't really happy. And so, like I said, I took a break, right? I took like a 2, 3 year break from content. And I think that experience really taught me to reflect on my life more. And it taught me to really make my content more authentic rather than to replace it with fake happiness based content, right? Like acting happy. So I still want to share my journey and I try to keep it honest, but comparison can really be overwhelming for me. And yeah.
I love that. I really like how you said it's the community and the kind of people that you meet through content. It makes content worth it. I feel like community is something that really makes content worth it. You're finding your tribe and your people. And I think trying to be happy, that's so true. We really have this mindset that Instagram is supposed to be picture perfect. You cannot show your downsides. You cannot show your messy routines. You cannot show being sad. You cannot show being feeling all human emotions. You can only show happy. You can only post the picture where your angles are perfect. You're looking happy. You're looking like you've got it all right. But we're humans at the end of the day, and we feel other emotions as well. And I really feel with you. I feel you when you said you looked back at the mirror and you didn't realize who you were. That's so common. You realized you were performing for the internet, and I'm so glad you realized it because so many people way older than you don't realize it, unfortunately. The 28 to 29, they're posting content, they're getting traction, but they have lost who they are you know and I think it's so important and so unfortunately so common when you're a creator. You do lose a major part of yourself trying to perform for the internet, but I think the most important part about being a creator is about being real,
Hmm.
right? Because you show people that you are human too. You do not set unrealistic expectations for both yourself and for your audience.
Yeah.
You show the messy parts, you show the sometimes ugly parts, because you're a human, right? and
Hmm.
it's and I know internet can be an extremely judgmental place, and it takes a lot of guts to post the sides of you that you would not be comfortable posting with. But
Hmm.
also, what it does is when you're vulnerable, it creates the very thing that you said you love about being a content creator. It creates community.
Yeah.
When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, when you allow yourself to express yourself
Hmm.
openly, you create a community. And I think I'm so glad that we see a change here these days, right? I feel
Yeah.
like back when Instagram came up, everybody was only posting the best stuff, the best part of their life.
Yeah.
Everything looked picture perfect. But now you see people cry on Instagram.
Yeah.
You see people post reels, right? You see people post reels about their problems. They talk openly. And
Hmm.
every time I come across such a reel, I like it and I connect with it. And I'm like, wow, she's brave. And that really it's changing slowly but surely, where people I think are being more oriented towards showing other aspects of their life as well that they wouldn't have in the platform a few years ago. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So, and I really am glad that today you're able to post without like performing, like you're able to be authentic. You're able to show every part of yourself, as I can see from your page. I'm so glad you overcame that and you're doing so well today. So that's so
Yes.
beautiful to see. No problem. So now this is something that I wanted to really ask you, which is your work is on Instagram, right?
Hmm.
It's a platform which is just addictive by design. It's
Hmm.
created to be addictive.
Yeah.
So, how do you stay disciplined amongst all the chaos of the reels, posts, and stories waiting to be opened and scrolled through?
To be honest, it's still something I work on every day and still struggle with. But there are three main things that I do. The first one would be to turn off my notifications because notifications are like hooks, right? Hooks that we create for our reels, but they're hooks towards our phone. They hook us into scrolling, they hook us into checking our phones and notifications. And so I just keep them turned off. I love the fact that people engage on my posts, but I also know that I'll end up refreshing my posts every few seconds just to see the likes go up, and that can get addictive, which obviously is
Yeah.
not good if you're trying to stop doom scrolling. The second thing would be I try to batch film my content and then schedule it all
Okay.
in one go so that I don't have to keep repeatedly opening the app to post everything every single day. Because that if I'm not able to open the app, if I don't have to open the app, I end up not using my phone. Right? I mainly use my phone to use Instagram to post content. And so if I can do it all in one go and make it easier for myself, then I end up not doom scrolling. And I think the biggest thing would be building a life outside social media, outside what I show the world on my page. Because
Hmm.
as exciting as showing your life on social media feels, you also have to be living a life that feels happy to you, that you feel happy living. Whether
Yeah,
that's trying new things or just traveling or maybe doing arts and crafts, whatever it is that makes you feel happy and fulfilled. So I think simply just being present. And I think social media, okay, so I realized that my life is one decision away from being mine, right? You just have to stop doom scrolling and actually go out there. You're watching someone else go on a run, but all you have to do is put your phone away, put your shoes on, and you can go for a run as well. You don't have
yeah,
to romanticize it in your head. You can actually go and do it. It's just a decision
yeah,
away. So I think
yeah.
reminding myself about that has also helped me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love how you broke it down into like three steps. One is keep your notifications off.
Hmm.
Two is batch put out your content out there, batch film it and put it
Hmm.
all out at once. So you're not
Hmm.
like dealing with the platform for like long intervals. And three is build a life outside of it. I think it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And it really stuck with me how you said you're one decision away from doing what you want.
Hmm.
It's so beautiful because it's become, like you said, it's so common to see somebody run and you're motivated for 2 minutes. You are romanticizing it for 2 minutes. You play a song and you envision yourself running. Why don't you actually put on your shoes and go out and run?
Hmm.
Like that's it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
that
one
easy.
decision away. Exactly, exactly. It's that easy.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, we there's so much that resistance that comes in between. We think, why should I? I'm tired. Let me do it tomorrow. Let me do it later. I'm content just watching another person do it, but you're watching them do it because they did it. You can do it too. And I think that when you start doing right, the momentum keeps you going. I really am a strong believer of you start messy, but momentum gives you confidence and momentum gives you competence. Competence gives you confidence, and once you are confident, it just fuels the cycle. Because you know that even if you're tired, I'm a good runner. I've ran for like a while now, and I can do it. But you get into the cycle only by starting, and you don't have confidence while starting. That's the worst part. You're not going to be confident.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, right. So you just have to start underconfident. People say you've got to fake it till you make it. That is
Hmm.
true. You actually don't even have to fake it. You just have to keep going. You're allowed to not fake it, but you have to start underconfident. You don't need to be confident to start. You just have to start and then the cycle takes care of itself. So I'm
Yeah,
so glad you
like
mentioned
you said,
this.
you just have to start and then you can make it better one step at a time. So I think that's the main thing here. Yeah.
Exactly. It's always one step at a time, one brick at a time.
Hmm.
Because I used to be that chronic perfectionist,
Hmm. Yeah.
growing up, and I used to think that everything should be perfect or I'm not going to do anything. It was the
Hmm.
all or nothing mindset. And I'm so glad you highlighted this because it has to be done. You get in the reps first, you do it, make it better later. But you've got to
Hmm.
get in the reps. And with each rep, you do actually get better, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you would have felt it too. Like you mentioned, you started posting initially. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of guts to start.
Hmm.
Most people don't start.
Yep.
The execution is where most people stop. Let me tell you, you go ask anybody, they're going to tell you, I have big dreams, I'm ambitious. Everybody's ambitious. But where people draw the line is execution. So I'm so glad that you were able to put yourself out there and you started shooting content when you were in 12th grade. And now, after taking a pause, you're back here and you've gotten in the reps, and that's why you're here today. You've gotten the reps, and that's why you're here today. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And I want to ask you an issue I have personally heard female creators mention a lot is peer pressure. This is something we touched upon a little bit. So it's so normal to see another female creator and think they look beautiful and want to look like them, want to dress up like them, want to have the persona that they have, want to post content like them, just so you can fit in and not stand out on the platform,
Hmm.
right? And do you face this issue as well? If so, how do you deal with this fear of missing out?
So yeah, I definitely do face this issue when I started creating. I admired a lot of different creators and I really, strive to be like them because they were really cool. But after a difference, I couldn't really. But after a while, I couldn't really tell the difference between what I genuinely liked and what I saw on social media, right? So it reached to a point again wherein I took my break, where I took my long 3 year break from social
Yeah.
media because I wanted to understand what I actually wanted. I wanted to reconnect with myself. And since coming back, I now create very differently. If you see, you can actually see that on my Reels stuff. My older Reels, I have removed it, but you can see the difference between my content. And I've spent a lot of time journaling and reflecting, and so that I can separate my voice from everyone else's voice, from what others want from me. And I think vision boards have also really helped me get a sense of direction, because it kind of it helps you visualize what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
And so it really gave me a sense of direction. So yeah.
Beautiful. I think that was so well said. Vision board and reflecting on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. And I really like how you actually took the pause that you needed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, most of us don't do it because we're all, on one side, we are people who don't execute because we're tired, but on the other side, we're also chronically obsessed with working,
Yeah.
where we feel that, we're both sides. We don't want to start new things, but we don't want to stop doing the old ones that we're doing. So sometimes what that means is we don't want to start good habits and we want to continue doing old habits that are not serving us just
Mm-hmm.
because of the comfort of doing them every day. It would have been, I'm assuming it would have been so hard to tell yourself that I'm going to pause because pausing is hard,
Yeah.
right? So when I'm so glad that you took the pause to reflect because we're all about getting in the reps. I want to do it. We're all about living a hectic lifestyle on one end where we don't pause, we don't reflect.
Mm-hmm.
I heard this quote where somebody said that being extremely productive is overrated and taking breaks and reflecting on yourself and being mindful is so underrated.
Yeah.
Taking breaks, especially, is underrated these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, what did you do in your 3 year break that helped you gain so much clarity now that you're back as a creator on the
Mm-hmm.
platform?
So I think the main thing that helped me was
Yeah,
giving my brain the space to think, right?
yeah,
Just sitting with my thoughts, because I feel like right now, especially with mental health being the center of everyone's attention,
yeah,
everyone just says that, oh, you can, book a flight and run away from your feelings, or you can do this and then you can, not think about it. But honestly, you sometimes just have to sit with it, and you have to feel it, and you have to go through it in order to understand what your body is trying to tell you, right? Because a lot of the time, especially for us as women, our body gives us the signal half the time, right? It tells us what we
yeah,
need, what we don't need. And so sometimes you just have to sit and listen and try to understand what it's telling you, right? So I think that sitting and listening and talking to myself really helped. Other than that, it might sound really cliche, but I did a lot of affirmations and a lot of manifestation based stuff. But my affirmations were more surrounding like, I am brave, I listen to myself, I've made mistakes, but I'm willing to listen to myself, I'm willing to improve, and so on and so forth. So it really surrounded the fact that I have acknowledging what happened in the past and then trying to improve from it, right? Learning from my mistakes as a creator, and yeah, working on that. So I think that really helped. And once again, vision boarding and journaling and reflecting really helped. I think one other thing that helped was I started to look at a new platform, which was LinkedIn for me at the time in between.
right.
So I shifted towards that, and that's where I met a fellow creator, Risha. I think you interviewed her previously. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I started talking to her, and that's where I really started getting the motivation or to start posting content again. And she really inspired me. So yeah, I would say that.
I love that. It's so beautiful that you gave yourself this break and you gave yourself affirmations. I think it is so not cliche to talk to yourself because, our brain actually listens to
Mm-hmm.
what we say.
Yeah.
And initially, when we're giving affirmations, we don't mean it because we can't feel it yet. You look in the mirror and you say, I'm
Mhm.
brave, but you don't actually feel brave.
Yeah.
But your brain doesn't know the difference between feeling brave versus saying it.
Yeah.
So when you say it, you rewire your brain into thinking, you know what? I am brave. I
Yeah.
am confident. Exactly. So I am the kind of person who shows up every day, no matter how tired she is.
Mm-hmm.
That is so. I am so glad you spoke about this because it gets such a bad rep these days. People
Mm-hmm.
look at manifestation and affirmations like they are. stuff that don't work, but they do. They're
Mhm.
actual they're neurologically proven that they do rewire your
Mhm.
brain, and our brain is plastic. Like they say, our brain is plastic. We can change it
Mhm.
however we want it.
Yeah.
What we feed into it, we get out of it.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So affirmations are so 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 good. And another thing I have heard people say is visualization. Do you also do
Mhm.
that? Do you like
Yeah.
put in a song and like visualize yourself?
So I do a
Wow.
lot of there's this jazz music, right?
Okay.
So I listen to that a lot because it gives me a peace of mind and it really calms my nerves down. So I sit and then I just keep my vision board in front of me. It's right up there, but yeah, I keep it in front of me.
Beautiful.
And then I just close my eyes and I imagine myself, getting all of those things. So I think that really has helped me. And a podcast was one of them. So I am here. So it does
I
work.
love that. It does work. It does work. Not saying it just because of the pot, but it does
Hmm.
work. It does work.
Nice.
Visualizations,
Yeah.
they are so, yes. And honestly, it's so, you need to constantly remind yourself, because the main issue is when we are living our day-to-day lives, the where we are and where we want to be, there's a major gap, right?
Hmm.
So when there's a gap, you tend to get lost in your day-to-day life and kind of like
Hmm.
lose an idea of what you wanted to become. And then 2 3 years down the line, you realize, oh, you know what, I was ambitious at 19. I don't remember her. I don't
Mhm,
remember that confident woman. I don't remember that woman who was putting herself out there, who had big dreams, who wanted to tick these things off before she was
mhm,
25, because you got so engrossed in your day-to-day life. So I think active visualization, remembering where you want to be, really, really is so important. Along with affirmations, it is like you've got to take 5 to 10 minutes to do it every single day. So
mhm,
that's so beautiful. And another thing you mentioned that really stuck with me was learn to sit with your feelings rather than escape it.
mhm,
Because I feel like you mentioned doom scrolling, right? Why do we do
mhm.
it? Because we want to run away.
Yeah,
Because we can't even deal with being bored these
yeah,
days,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't deal with boredom, we can't deal with anxiety, we can't deal with stress. We want immediate solutions to
Yeah,
everything.
as kids, we
Why we
used to
doom
be
scroll?
able to sit around for hours without doing anything. Even if we were bored, we would. I think that's where creativity mainly happens when you give yourself the time
Yeah,
and the space to think. That when you're bored, that's when your brain starts coming up with ideas to do something, right? So that's where
yeah,
creativity comes from. But we don't give ourselves the time and the space to
yeah,
actually think. We just end up doom scrolling.
yeah. That's so true. That's so true. It's so true that your best ideas do come when you're bored. Like people say their best ideas come in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling came up with the entire Harry Potter series from her bathtub with an apple. So if somebody is able to come up with a world-class series in the bathtub, that really speaks about the importance of staying idle. And it's not
Yeah.
just idle actually. It's we're not staying idle. Our brain is constantly
Mm-hmm.
working, but we don't want to deal with it. We can't deal with boredom
Mm-hmm.
because see, it's like when you're sitting with yourself, you will be bored for a certain amount of time because your brain is like running through thoughts. It's like going through
Mm-hmm.
different tabs. But eventually it comes on an idea and thinks about it. But we don't give ourselves time to get that idea because we just want to replace it. We want to immediately do something. I've heard Simon Sinek say this. He's a TEDx speaker and an author of Start with Why. So he says that we humans these days, especially, we want to fill in every gap we have.
Mm-hmm.
You're traveling in a metro or you're traveling in a bus, you have 2 minutes, you want to fill it with checking your phone. You are in between a conversation, somebody walks to get water, you want to fill it with checking your phone or emails. We have this mindset that we want to fill in every gap of our life. We don't give gaps. And it's so important, like you mentioned, that we get our best ideas when we have gaps. So how do you deal with I mean, how do you give yourself that mental discipline that, you know what, I'm going to not fill this gap and sit with myself? How do you actually do it?
I think for me it's really simple because I just turn on my airplane mode and I just sit on my bed like before sleeping every day I do this. So I sit for like 20 minutes. You have to kind of build it up. I started with 5, I reached 20 so far, but I sit for like around 20 minutes and just think. I keep a notebook in front of me, I think, and any ideas that come up or any source of inspiration I find or a word that my mind says to me, I just jot it all down and I try to put it all together like it's a puzzle. right? And I do a lot of board games. I play a lot of board games. I think we don't play board games that often anymore, and they are really like
Yeah,
they help exercise your mind, right? You exercise your body, but
yeah.
you need to exercise your mind. So playing board games really
Yes.
helps with that. And so I think doing that helps as well for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think virtually I've heard no one talk about this. I'm so glad you mentioned this because I'm gonna try this. Play board games and sit quietly for, I mean, sit in silence for 20 minutes. 20
Yeah,
is amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
But I love how you started small again. It comes back to
hmm,
starting small.
hmm,
5, 10, 15, 20.
yeah,
And I also like how you're like trying to solve it like a puzzle.
hmm,
And do you actually find things to connect as you sit down
yeah.
and solve it?
Yeah, there are times wherein
Wow.
my brain says like flower or it says tree or then the ideas connect and then so it kind of gives me like flashes and images and like just random things that pop up into my mind. So I just end up writing it all down. And then let's say because I am someone who definitely does scroll. I won't say that I don't scroll. So let's say I find a piece of inspiration online as well. So I try to connect it with what I previously wrote in my notebook or my brain came up with. So I just try to connect dots, even if they don't connect, because that's what creativity is. You come up with unique things, you come up with something that wouldn't make sense to other people, it makes sense to you. And that's what creativity
Yeah.
mainly is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love how you said connect the dots even if they don't connect, because there's always going to be a way something connects to the other, you know. It's all about getting in that creative nerve where you're able to make things sense of things that don't make sense to other people, but it
Mhm,
makes sense to you. And I'm sure you will find your audience when you put it out there. Someone else is going to come and say, that is so relevant to me,
mhm,
right? So it's so nice that you are doing this. I love that. I'm sure people who are listening would like really start doing this as well. Sit with yourself and try to connect your thoughts like a puzzle. Because I've
mhm,
heard that apparently most of our thoughts of today are 90% of them are the same as the ones we have the day before. So actually, thoughts
yeah,
are just repeated, right? So they're
yeah,
repeated patterns. So
mhm,
it always does make sense. I'm so glad you mentioned this because it does make sense. Once you
mhm,
try to sit down and like solve it like a puzzle, it makes sense.
mhm,
So, when you're doing the 20-minute thinking, the 20
mhm.
minutes is only reserved for thinking, or do you do a part of the connecting during the 20 minutes as well?
Honestly, I think for me, it just becomes a mix of it all. Like, I just try to give myself 20 minutes. Sometimes it ends up becoming 30 minutes. And there's no exact, like,
Yeah,
format as such I follow, like, first thinking or then, jotting down the ideas. It's just a mix of whatever ends up happening, right? It's different every day because the thoughts and ideas won't be the same all the time. So it just ends
yeah,
up differing based on how it is.
beautiful, beautiful. So now I would like to ask you that hate comments.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunately so common these days on Instagram. Everybody faces it, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how small or big of a creator you are.
Mm-hmm.
How do you protect your mental health and headspace from all the hate?
So thankfully, I haven't personally experienced any hate comments as of now, but so I don't want to pretend like I know what it feels like. But I think I've made my peace with the fact that it's impossible to make all 8 billion people on this earth happy, right? That's
Yeah,
not what I'm here to do. That's not my goal with my content. If someone doesn't like it, that's completely all right. I'm not here to be liked, and I want to create things that feel authentic to me, things that feel real to me, things that make me feel alive. I also want to talk about intentional content. So more than creating content that's authentic to me, I try to consume content that I get inspired by. Right, I think that's also a really important part. And so I watch creators like Wizard Liz or Thumbcore, and they show up despite all the criticism they face. They might have hate comments and haters out there, but then they still stand up every day and they still post. And that reminds me that visibility always comes with people's opinion, it comes with judgment, and you have to be ready to face that even if it takes time. And I think instead of focusing on people who don't connect with your ideas, you should focus on making an impact and finding people who genuinely connect with your content. Because if you can change one person's life and make their day a little brighter, then that means you've achieved your goal. If it's just one person that you're trying to target, even if you reach one person, that means the goal has been accomplished. You have reached it. So I think that's what really keeps me going.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I love how you said it's just even if it's just one person, a small smile to their face, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of you reminded them of something beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You made them feel like they're seen and heard. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
You've reached your goal.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
more than any numbers, likes, shares, right? It's more than any brand
Mm-hmm.
collab can ever do. That's like the ultimate gratification that you get as a creator. So I love that. And I think it's so beautiful that you said don't focus on the hate, focus on the positivity, focus on the giving back. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're focused on this, you naturally do not have time to focus on the hate.
Yeah.
Hate comes and goes, and like you said, it's the price of fame. You are known, you are going to get all sort of opinions.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
if exactly, so if you want to not get any hate, then you have to sit in like a wall. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in four walls and not be known. So
Yeah.
there's a price to pay for everything,
Yeah.
and fame does bring in with it a lot of opinions. You just have to know where to put your focus on. So
Mm-hmm.
beautifully said, very beautifully said. Now I want to touch upon this. Let's say there's a 21-year-old woman
Mm-hmm.
and she wants to now start creating online. What would be your top three tips for her if you could only give her three?
Mm, okay, so the first one would be to create because you genuinely want to, not because everyone wants to become a content creator, a YouTuber, right? That's not why you should be doing it. You should do it because it genuinely comes from within. You have this passion, this burning fire inside you that you want to create, right? That's why you should create. And I think it's that why. It's that why is really important because it keeps you going when the motivation disappears or when a video doesn't perform well or you don't get the numbers, right?
Mm,
It's what keeps you going. So I think that would be my first piece of advice. The second one would be to not feel pressured to put your entire life online, right? As much as you want to be authentic, you don't have to put every single thought out there on the internet. You can still have parts of it for yourself, not because it's not good or people will judge you, but simply because you're a human first. You are you first, and you get to spend time with yourself, and you can have moments private if you want, right? So I think remembering that your personal life is still yours and finding that balance is really important. It's difficult, it's extremely difficult, but it is really important. And I think the third one, which I don't know if a lot of people talk about this, would be your safety. As women, our safety is should be our number one priority as a
mm,
creator, or even if you're not a creator, right? It should be our number one priority. um so again, you're going to get a lot of hate comments and all of that. You're going to get recognized in public for let's say. So learn to understand the difference between genuine support and people who are making you feel uncomfortable. Your peace of mind
yeah,
matters more than a follower or a comment, right? So don't hesitate to restrict a person or block them immediately or get them to unfollow, right? You can have boundaries even as a creator, and you have to be able to respect yourself. And yeah, just keep yourself safe. I think that one should be the most important.
beautiful. I think you touched upon like it was so holistic. You connected all three of them. I can really see your brain is great at connecting dots because it was so beautiful how you said you started with just create because you want to, because you're passionate and not because everybody is doing it. It's
Hmm.
so true. You could not have said that enough. Clock that in. And also just be authentic, but don't put everything out there. It's a pressure that so many of us face today that you want to put everything out there. You want to put out every idea, every part of your life, but there's so many parts of your life that need to be just yours. They need to be private for your sake. And I also like how you touched upon women's safety because more than any follower, like you said, more than any love that you can get, your safety is important and you need to especially have boundaries as a creator. So beautiful. I think it was very holistically connected. Thank you for that. And now I want to ask you, as a female content creator, some of your reels are going to outperform the others, right? It's just natural, it's part and parcel.
Hmm.
And it's only human to feel disappointed when we had an idea in our head that we thought is going to reach a lot, but
Hmm.
maybe for whatever reason it doesn't reach.
Hmm.
So how do you fight with this issue and how do you deal with it?
So it's a very real feeling, and I used to
Yeah.
get really caught up with numbers, and I still do
Yeah.
at times. But I've realized that social media makes everything feel surprisingly small and very underwhelming. For
Yeah,
example, 500 views on Instagram doesn't sound like much, right? You would be like, oh my god, it's just 500. I edited for so many hours, just 500 views. But imagine if someone told you to go up on stage and speak to 500 people. You would be a nervous wreck, most likely. It would feel like a huge opportunity in your hands. You're speaking to 500 people ready to make an impact. You're doing that
yeah,
same thing online, right? You're doing the
yeah,
same thing online. And so I think it's really important to remember that social media can make things feel underwhelming. What I do at times when my brain is not, able to, is like when I'm caught up with numbers, what I try to do is I Google up pictures of, let's say, a room that would fit 500 people in it or 1,000 people in it, because let's say that's my views, right? So I do that just to visualize it and see how incredible it would be if I saw that in real life, right? I would be
yeah,
extremely empowered and I would feel so motivated to speak. And
yeah.
so that really helps me and that really brightens my day every single time. And I think another thing would be comparison, because we are trying as creators, as small creators. For me, so I don't have a lot of followers, right? So I used to compare myself to people who had like 1 million followers or like 10 million followers, but that's not right. That's not right. Why? Because I'm comparing my day 10 to someone's day 1020. That's not right. Not right for them,
Mm.
not right for yourself, right? It's not a fair comparison, because they've been putting in the work, they've been, filming, batching their content, they've been creating, right? They've been putting in the work, and so it's working for them. If you do that, it's going to work for you as well. But you have to actually sit there and build and take the time to think. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And there was this one Mel Robbins podcast I remember hearing. I think it was the guest or her who said it, but she said that you have to give yourself the same amount of time to build your life that you gave your old self or older version to destroy your life, right? So give yourself the same amount of
Wow.
time. And I think we forget with this hustle culture that growth takes time, healing takes time, and I try to remind myself as much as possible whenever I'm caught up in numbers or in the more hustle culture type part of creating content.
Wow. Beautiful. I really love how you referenced Mel Robbins. She's amazing. And
Mhm.
like you said, it's so beautifully put. Give yourself enough time to grow as you gave your old self to destroy yourself.
Mhm.
Wow. Because growth is deliberate, but destruction happens so subconsciously we don't realize the passage of time.
Yeah.
But another thing you mentioned was don't compare your day 10 to like someone's day 1020 or like 10,020 because
Mhm.
you see so many creators out there, people who make millions, billions of content, and you think,
Mhm.
I'm not doing it,
Mhm.
right? You see Mr. Beast, he's
Yeah.
been posting since he was 11,
Yeah.
like 11. He's 27 now, and he's one of the few people at 27 who can say, I have 16 years of experience at my job. That's him. And today he's a billionaire, but he clocked in the hours. So it's not fair to compare yourself to someone like him or someone like Mel Robbins, who you're starting off a podcast and you're like, I want to be like Raj Money. I want to be a, a Mel Robin. I want to be this celebrity. I want to be that celebrity. I'm starting off a page and I want immediate traction. It's not going to happen immediately. It only happens when you're deliberate towards it because growth is deliberate and you clock the hours in. So it's beautiful how you mentioned that. And I also really like this that you Google up pictures of like 500 to 1,000 people because it's so true. Social media makes everything so underwhelming. Like you see 10 likes and you think, I just got 10 likes. But imagine having the agreement of 10 people on a day-to-day basis. 10 people coming to you and telling you that I agree with you, right?
Mhm.
I find what you say relevant.
Mhm.
So when something like that happens in real life, we think, yes, that's amazing. That's so rare in real life.
Mhm.
But social media makes it seem so small just because of the volume of people that use it. So
Yeah.
because the
Exactly.
volumes are large, exactly. So because the volumes are large, we think that we should be getting at least like 1 lakh likes just to be like doing well. And like you said, speaking to 500 people, let alone speaking to 500 people, speaking to like 10 people, 20, 30 people is so
Mhm.
nerve-wracking. It's a huge audience. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Exactly.
love how you mentioned yeah, so I love how you mentioned where you Google up photos. That is so good. I think it really rewires your brain into thinking that, you know what? 500 people have watched my content. Might not seem
Mhm.
like a lot on social media, but 500 people is a lot in real life, right? It's a lot. So that's
Mhm.
beautiful. I love that. I love that. So now I took the liberty of going through your page and I loved it. And I saw one of your reels where you were showing a lot of beautiful and well written DMs that you received from your community
Mhm.
and from the work that you do.
Mhm.
So I want to know, how does it feel to have built a community for yourself at such a young age?
So first off, I really feel very blessed and very
Yeah,
thankful that I have friends, family, and a lot of people who support me, right? A lot of people who are part of my community. And I think people don't realize this often how much those messages mean to creators, especially smaller creators, right? Even the huge ones, it means a lot to us, and it genuinely
definitely.
keeps you going, especially when you're having harder days where it's difficult to get out of bed or to post, right? So it really makes a difference. And as much as I love and support and tell people to be happy and fulfilled on your own, and which I truly do, I think there's still something very special about having a human connection wherein someone compliments you or says something that makes you smile, and or it help your content help them in a way, in some way or the other. So I think that's really important to remember, and it's something we often forget or overlook.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love how you brought up the importance of human connection because it's not just true for smaller creators, it's true for, like you said, anybody, no matter how large of a creator they are, no matter where in life they are, even if they're a billionaire, that human connection, we all crave for that human validation, that human connection. So when someone comes and tells you that your work made an impact on my life, I like what you're doing, I relate to you, you feel so good. And that's so gratifying, so much more than any number, so much more than any amount you receive, so much more than any visibility. It's all about the human touch at the end of the day, because that's like our final goal, that's like our underlying goal. It's the impact, right? So I love that. I think that's what drives a lot of ambitious women. It's the impact, the people we reach at the end of the day. Imagine if we were to earn, but we had no impact. I don't think we would be as motivated to earn. So that's beautiful. I love how you mentioned that. And now I want to touch upon this. This was something we did speak about a little bit earlier, but I want to come to it properly. Where burnouts, right? It's
Mhm.
so common amongst our generation because really we are a generation where we talk a lot, we focus a lot about on intensity rather than consistency. We
Mhm.
want to be intense. If we're doing something, I want to give my 10,000% to it, but I'm not
Mhm.
going to stop. I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to like stay up drinking Red Bull, but then
Mhm.
I crash out the next day. So it's
Yeah.
not consistent. And that inevitably leads to burnouts. Like your body is a human body. You're going to be
Mhm.
tired, right?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with it? How do you protect yourself? Or of course we can't, we do get it. So how do you know, overcome it and get back to your routine?
Mhm. So I am someone who absolutely loves anything and everything to do with nature and being outside, whether it's the adventurous, exciting parts or just sitting and having a matcha in the grass. Um, I love it all, right? So I think that is where my mind feels most free to think and gets a lot of inspiration. So I think just doing that for me helps, right? But it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Different things make people happy, and different things give people a peace of mind. So I think going back to yourself and doing the things that make you feel happy and joyful again, doing those is the best way to get rid of burnout. You can't really get rid of it, to be honest,
Yeah.
because it is something that will keep happening if you don't take care of yourself and if you don't figure out what is the underlying issue that's happening for you. For me, my biggest burnout happened when I took my 3-year break. That was the longest burnout I've ever had. And it was because I was slightly limited in terms of what kind of content I would post. And so I didn't really get a lot of creative freedom, which, if you're a creator, you would know that how difficult it is without having any creative freedom. You're creating content.
Yeah.
And so I kind of really went off a lot of trends back then. And I used to post to different trends, and it got me attraction, but it didn't really make me feel like I'm being myself. And so when I came back, I was given more freedom, more creative freedom to post whatever I wanted. And I think you can really see the difference between my content. It has changed. I might get lesser views now in comparison to what I did get, but I'm still happy and I'm still grateful for the views I do get. I am glad that I can reach more people who actually are genuinely impacted by my content. And I think, once again, that's some human connection. I have to go back to that. It is something that will make you feel whole, right? Regardless of how
Yeah.
much we talk about self love and all of this, it does matter for sure, 100%. You have to do all of that. But I think we have really made human connection feel like a very underwhelming thing. In today's day and age, we talk a lot about self love and spending time alone, but human connection, we're humans, we need connection to thrive, we need
Yeah.
connection to live. And so I think talking to my friends and my family has also really helped with my burnout. And sometimes you just need to sleep it off, right? If it's like
Yeah.
a days kind of thing, then you just have to sleep it off. You have to eat your favorite food and just do the things you like in general. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I really like how you went back to touch upon human connection because it's not something we can talk about enough. And in today's day and age, like you said, we do talk a lot about like self-love and self-care and taking time out for ourselves. But being with people you love is also a form of self-care, and it's so not talked about because we think that you're supposed to be thriving alone. You're supposed to not depend on people. I've heard people come and tell me that I don't want to be with people because I feel like I'm being dependent on them. But you are a human being and we are social by nature. We've lived in tribes for like ever, forever, right? So we need a connection. Everybody in our life has a role and we have a role in all of their lives. That's what makes us so valuable. Imagine a lot of our identity also comes from what we are to other people. We are a content creator, a daughter, a sister, a girlfriend, a mother. So you have all these roles, and we take a lot of pride and a lot of our identity again comes from whom we are to the people around us. So human connection is just unfortunately so undervalued these days, and I really hope that we give more of it to ourselves. Talk to your best friend. Call up that friend that you haven't spoken to for years. Talk to your parents. How's your relationship with your parents going? And just spend time with people. Talk to your teachers, someone who were like a mentor figure to you. Talk to your community. Just talk to people. Stay with people. Do something with people. It's so beautiful. And I think you really heal. When you're with people, you do really heal. So love that. I really love that answer. I like how you didn't say take a journal and just do something because that's we hear it. A lot of us hear it. And we do that. But this is something we also need to give ourselves. I'm not saying don't do the journaling, but do this as well. That it's not this or that, it's do all of it. It's beautiful. And I now want to ask you, let's say there's a woman and she is really low on self-esteem because she sees that on Instagram there's a certain kind of, you know, face type or body type that is being promoted. Let's say straight hair or a certain body type, a certain type of nose that she sees, and she feels compares that to herself, and she thinks I don't look like that, so I'm not attractive, and she becomes really low on self-esteem. What would you like to tell her?
Okay, so I would definitely remind her that a lot of what we see online is someone's perfectly curated moment that they've taken the time out of their day to, create, right? It's perfectly
Yeah,
curated by them, and it's only 0.1% of their actual life. You don't know, maybe they cried prior to making that reel or after that reel, or maybe they have insecurities that they're trying to cover up, and maybe they're posting because they want to feel more confident, right? You don't know
yeah,
anyone's struggles and anyone's battles. And I think that's something we often forget when scrolling on social
yeah,
media. You might
yeah,
one thing I would say that personally, for me, I try to do this whenever I see someone and I'm, comparing, right, myself to them. Like, oh my God, her hair is so nice. I wish my hair were like that, or something of that sort. Then what I do is I try not to compare myself by not villainizing the person because they look good. That doesn't mean I can't look good. I can. I just have to put in a
Right.
little more effort, right? So I try not to make myself feel smaller or villainize the other person, because truly they're not the villain, and neither am I gonna feel small just because they're doing better, right? We can both do better, and we can both do good things. So how I actionably, like in a more actionable way, I would do that is how you just say three good things that you see about this other person, right? Like, oh my gosh, she has such beautiful hair, but you say it in a way wherein it's more inspiring, right? Like, oh my gosh, her earrings are so nice. Like, you're complimenting them, even though they're not hearing it. You're complimenting them. So just three things to compliment the person, so you're not villainizing them. But you also,
Yeah.
after that, compliment yourself. Three things you love about yourself, and I think that really helps you admire yourself and the other person, rather than putting yourself in this victimized state of mind wherein negative thoughts get looped in and then you are kind of in this spiral. So I think
Yeah.
that's something we forget, and so it's really
Right.
important to remember that. And I try my best to speak to myself in a positive manner, because if I wouldn't speak, I wouldn't say negative things to my best friend, right? Like, I would not.
Yeah.
That's just sad, right? I would not do that. So why am I speaking to myself like that? I just try to ask myself, whenever I catch myself, I try to ask myself this question in the moment. Sometimes it does not get through to me. Sometimes I do struggle with it. But I think trying is the best thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
Because at least you're trying to be 1% better than you were yesterday, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's really important.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like how everything you've said so far is not abstract and it's so actionable. Like you're like, do this. And you give like a beautifully curated set of things. That's a lot of wisdom for someone your age, trust me. And I like how you said do not villainize the other person because she can be beautiful and so can you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Apples and oranges look nothing alike, but individually they're so beautiful.
yeah.
Comparison is what steals your joy, right?
Hmm.
Because you're like, you want to be like that other person, but you fail to see the beauty in yourself. And when you actually take out the time, like you said, to say three things that nice about her, you come out of that loop. You break that loop that I
Hmm.
want to look like her, I want to be like her, I'm not like her,
Hmm.
I need this, I need that, I need to change myself. And then you break that and you say nice things about her, and you
Hmm.
actually say nice things about yourself as well. And that's when you realize that they're not the villain, nor are you. You can live your life, they can live their life. I love that. And I really love, 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 love how you said that. Ask yourself, would you talk the way that you talk to yourself? You would not. It's so sad that you would not talk that to your best friend, or let alone your best friend, not even a stranger. You see a stranger on the road, you're not going to tell them things you tell yourself,
Yeah,
right? We are the harshest on ourselves. But when
exactly.
it comes to others, we wouldn't say that. It's so sad. If we just tell our thoughts out loud, I
Hmm.
think it brings so much awareness to it, and we realize that, oh, like I wouldn't do that to another woman. I wouldn't do that to my best friend. Why
Yeah,
am I doing it to myself? I'm a
exactly.
human being too. So it's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. I think that's something I would want all of us listening to start practicing. If you wouldn't tell these things to your best friend or even a stranger, don't say it to yourself. That's
Hmm.
beautiful. And lastly, as we close, I want to ask you if you could do only one thing for your wellness the rest of your life, only one, what would it be?
Definitely, actually, I think it would be to stay more connected to myself and learn more about myself. Um, that could be, through again doing the things that I enjoy doing, or having experiences through social media, maybe, right? Or even outside social media, having a life outside social media. So I think that would be the main one, connecting with myself. I also really believe that wellness is, as a creator, oftentimes, even though we are creating content about wellness, we do tend to forget that we are also human, right? So it's important to remember that you're a human first and then you're a creator. So you can prioritize yourself. You can take breaks when you don't feel well. You can do that. You have to take the time for yourself. You have to be very understanding towards yourself and kinder towards yourself as a creator, but you also have to remember that you are a human and then you are a creator. So yeah, I think that would be the most important part for me.
Beautiful. I think you couldn't have said it better. Stay more connected to yourself. I think it's never a one-off thing. It's always a process. And I love that. I really loved every single one of your answer today. It was so beautiful and it was so conversational to me. Like lost myself. I loved it. And I forgot that I'm shooting a podcast. I'm like, let me just ask her this, let me ask her that. And it happens with all the women that I have here today. Have here on the pod. It's so beautiful to see that, women can just talk to women, and that's what this platform is about. Just talk. No, raw, uncut content. So I love that. And thank you for taking out the time to make this happen. I am so blessed and I'm just so, so thankful that you're here today. Thank you.
You so much for having me, and I am really proud of you for everything that you do. I've seen how much work and effort you put into every single thing, and I'm just so proud of you. And I
Thank you.
hope that you get the greatest of successes, and all the best.
Thank you so much. I wish all of that for you and more. I'm so proud of everything that you do as well. Thank you, Hershil.
So much.
Thank you. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. It really means a lot. If you like the work that we do or feel like you could support us, please subscribe. And if you want to stay up to date with all of our latest episodes, click on the bell icon and click on share so you never miss a new update. See you on the next one. Bye bye.